So it's green for go on HS2 despite the critics. Do you think this could end up being actually quite good for the country? The formal go-ahead has been given for the first phase of the HS2 Speedlink, high-speed rail link between London and Birmingham. After 3 years of debate in Parliament, royal assent has been approved this afternoon. Now, critics say the multi-billion-pound project is a waste of money and will damage the environment. The Conservative MP for Cheshire and Amersham, Cheryl Gillen, says HS2 will have tragic consequences for many homeowners.
The impact is disproportionately felt, particularly by my local authorities, such as Buckinghamshire County Council, and our parish councils, such as Great Missenden. Can my right honourable friend reassure me and my constituents and my excellent councils that the Department of Transport will reimburse parish and county and district councils for any reasonable expenses incurred as a result of the construction of this dreadful project HS2?
Now, the Transport Secretary, Chris Grayling, is promising fair and reasonable compensation.
Well, Mr Speaker, I'm well aware that when a project of this kind, of national importance, is constructed, it inevitably has an effect on some of those who live on the route. And I reiterate that point, that we'll do everything we can to ensure that the process is as reasonable and fair as possible for those affected.
Well, let's talk to Penny Gaines. Penny is from the campaign group Stop HS2. Penny, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
This is a project of national importance, says the Transport Secretary.
Well, obviously we disagree with that, otherwise we wouldn't be campaigning about it. It's been very much pushed through by lobbyists who've been arguing in favour of high-speed rail, expecting somebody else to pay for it, rather than coming out of the real needs of the real transport needs. If you go back to the start, it was set up, the government set up a company called High Speed 2 and said, go away and look at the transport needs of the country. And not surprisingly, the company called High Speed 2 came back and said, what you really need is a high-speed railway. Just this last weekend, we've seen that the Department for Transport have been asking companies like Uber and Google to come up with some innovative ways of working with High Speed 2, and they've not come up with that. We've also heard that they're not really very interested in getting involved in this. High Speed 2 has come out of lobbyists. There might be a need for new transport infrastructure, but it's always been very much looked at as, shall we build a high-speed railway? Yeah, let's.
Well, look, if you go back to the very genesis of this, the whole project, it doesn't make... I mean, it was Lord Adonis, an unelected Labour peer, who came up with the idea, and somehow it was just introduced, and every successive government has absolutely resolutely stuck to it. Do we just have to accept that this is now just the inevitable? It will happen, and not give in, but we just have to accept.
Well, it comes back to, we've had a number of reports that have been commissioned and organised, so we're still waiting to hear from a report by the Cabinet Secretary, who was asked to look into HS2 by David Cameron, and his report hasn't seen the light of day. There's been a number of other independent reports organised by various things, Treasury Select Committee. They've all come out criticising HS2. It's not too late to stop it. There have been other projects that have got right past royal assent and have then been cancelled. HS2 could easily be one of them. There's still a whole lot going on phase 2. Next week and the week after, there are 2 meetings on phase 2 in Wakefield and Long Eaton in Derbyshire. So there's a whole load of things going on. It's definitely not too late to stop it. It's just a case of the government actually looking around and saying, well, we've actually looked at this, not from the Department of Transport side, but from other people, other departments looked at it and had a real think about it.
Penny, I wish that were possible. I think it's going to happen. Earlier I spoke to Phil Marsh from Milton Keynes. Phil is a special correspondent for Railway Herald, and he thinks that this will be a good thing in the long run, and once HS2 is in place, up and running, we will all see the benefit. Have a quick listen to what he told me.
How many people have forgotten the 8 or 9 years of misery we had when the West Coast Main Line was being upgraded by Railtrack and then Network Rail? Everyone's forgotten the weekends and the weeks without trains. Now, once HS2 is built and it's a greenfield site, there will be more train paths on the existing West Coast Main Line, because the long-distance and fast trains, which aren't necessarily the same thing, will go on HS2. That will free up train paths, for example, through Milton Keynes, Leighton Buzzard, Hemel Hempstead and Watford, which means that commuters will stand a good chance of getting a seat. It will benefit the economy. There's going to be a lot of employment in North Buckinghamshire, and it will also help the commuters, as I said, from Milton Keynes southwards into Euston.
Well, that's Phil Marsh. Penny, the message seems to be perhaps some people can't see this yet, but once this thing is built and trains are running, we'll all think back, we'll all look back and think, well, how did we cope without it?
Well, to start with Milton Keynes, what's going to happen is that the fast trains, as he says, the fast trains are going to be taken away. So I've taken trains north from Milton Keynes to places like Birmingham. I've known people who go to Manchester. What's going to happen is there's billions of pounds worth of cuts to the existing train network, which means that the long-distance trains that serve places like Milton Keynes, Coventry and other places like that, they're going to go because all the people who would have used them and made them worth, all the people who would have gone from London to Birmingham or London to Manchester are expected to be using HS2. There won't be the market for people just going
Penny,
from Milton Keynes to Manchester.
Look, the reality is that this battle was over a long time ago. Is it still only a question of getting concessions where possible?
Absolutely not. Like I said, there's meetings next week in Derbyshire and Yorkshire looking at phase 2. It's not over. There's a long way to go.